Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unfiltered on SABC 3 and SABC News Channel. I'm Redi Tlhabi. The economic mismanagement of state-owned enterprises has become a permanent feature of South Africa's news cycle. Many are in deep trouble and billions have already been spent in bailouts and guarantees. The figures will really make your head spin. State-owned enterprises are supposed to be the engine for growth and development, but the truth is many, like South African Airways, SABC, Eskom, continue to put pressure on the country's fiscus. You'll remember that ratings agency Standard & Poor's estimated that government guarantees to state-owned enterprises will be over 500 billion by 2020, 10% of South Africa's current GDP. Now, with an economy that is already in recession, the truth is South Africa cannot afford to throw money at poor-performing SOEs. Now, the toxic mix of inefficiency and corruption should force deep reflection on the role of SOEs in our economy. A cleanup is obviously urgent. With hundreds of thousands of jobs on the line, with every bailout and corruption scandal, it is clear that the public's trust in the productivity of SOEs has been eroded. We really do need to breathe some life into them. So tonight on Unfiltered, we are asking you a simple question. What is to be done with our failing SOEs? Take a look at this scene setter.
State-owned entities were once the pride of the nation and hugely profitable. They would offer great value and service. But over the last decade, this has changed and has cost the taxpayer millions of rands.
SOEs have become a bit of a swear word, and it's sad because, you know, we build good roads. We had good electricity generation. Transnet was a formidable supplier of good services to the industries and moving goods to and from markets, and that has declined drastically.
Government has more than 130 companies under its wing, but it is a handful of them that has been known to be troublesome, costing the economy. For an example, SAA needs an extra 21 billion rands plus in state bailout for the next 3 years to avoid total collapse. Such is the frustration that the new finance minister has now twice mentioned that it should be closed down. Analysts agree that this would be a wise, albeit costly move.
The minister might be as frustrated as everyone else. We've been watching the drama in state-owned enterprising unfolding. So if you look at this SOE, specifically the South African Airways, we call it non-essential because it doesn't contribute directly to the economy.
SAA is an apartheid legacy that is irrelevant, doesn't work to anyone's advantage, costs an awful lot of taxpayers' money, and in this modern day and age really should be closed down. Government anywhere in the world should not be running airplanes.
What is more unfortunate is that the workers at these entities often bear the brunt of bad management and financial mismanagement. Recently, the public broadcaster has announced that it intends to slash more than 900 of its permanent workforce.
The morale in the state-owned companies is like, you know, people are always asking, you know, what is happening, what is going on, because I don't think the boards and the CEOs of these companies are communicating the decisions that's been taken at the board level. It's been filtered down to the workers at the grassroots. And that's the reason why there is now in SABC, for instance, people know there's a new board. People know that the board has been instructed, you know, to turn things around. But, you know, sometimes a turnaround can't just come overnight.
Selling off or partially privatizing loss-making SOEs is rejected outright by the unions, fearing more job losses, as was the case at Telkom.
Telkom is still owned partly by the government, but the day-to-day running of the company should be left to a private, competent people who can run it with a profit motive and also leave the business to be viable.
Diabo Seto, SABC News, Johannesburg.
A big thank you to our economics desk there for that package that really paints the picture of what is going on in our SOEs. I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Zwelinzima Vavi, who is the president of SAFTU.
General Secretary.
General Secretary, I beg your pardon, of SABC. That is Zwelinzima Vavi. He's joining us this evening on Unfiltered. And then we also go to our PE studios, where we are joined by economist Dr. Zugile. We're joined by Dr. Zugile Luyenge. Of course, he's representing Parliament Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Thank you. Dr. Zugile, can you hear us?
Good evening, Mitlabi.
Thank you so much. I want to start.
Good evening.
It's a South African thing, isn't it? You want to greet everybody in the room. Let's get going with our discussion. We had a clip there that painted the picture, Zwelinzima Vavi. And it seems to me that our SOEs are near collapse, or some of them have already collapsed. Is there a way out?
Absolutely. I think the starting point to the discussion is to ask what happened, because all of us must admit the first point, that we inherited most, if not all, of these state-owned enterprises from the apartheid era. They were running perfectly well, albeit for a small minority of white. They resolved what they called the poor Afrikaner problem. They were damn efficient. Eskom, for example, was providing the cheapest electricity to the South African industry, the cheapest in the world. It used to be one of the major instruments we're using to attract foreign investment and to attract industries into South Africa. Telkom was employing about 60,000 workers. It was rolling out telephones lines to the whites, only to the farmers, white farmers, and it used to jump over the black residential areas as it.
Oh, we remember those days.
We remember all of those days. And Dinel was a well-beating company that was producing world art arms to the rest of the world, and we can go on and on and on. And now, what happened? Normally, every time I think about this, I ask a question: where is your pride, you black men? How could we now be talking about a near collapse of all of these state enterprises just 25 years into
It sounds to me that
democracy?
you're saying that government ownership, or government as the biggest shareholder, is not a problem, because in apartheid South Africa, the state-owned enterprises were created to solve the poor white problem. In fact, in South Africa, we like talking about affirmative action as though it's a post-apartheid thing. There was affirmative action after the Anglo-Boer War to help the Afrikaner white South Africans to be commercially active, to create jobs and so on. So let me just go back to your first answer to my question. You're not saying that government involvement is the problem, because it's been done before with efficiency. So the problem here is something else. What do you call that problem?
It is chronism, crony capitalism. It is deployment of the worst kind you can find in society on the basis of the membership to a party, instead of finding the best of the skills to deploy to at least maintain the same standards, but ideally to improve the standards now that the demand is to provide services to the rest of the population instead of just the tiny minority that was selected under the apartheid era.
Dr. Zugile, let me bring you in here. You are members of parliament. You are in the portfolio committee. It feels to me that parliamentarians such as yourself only come in after the fact. You are reactionary. The scale of the problem that we saw in our insert makes me exasperated and ask, where are the policymakers? Where are the oversight bodies? Where are parliamentarians who are supposed to be there to ensure that those who must account to the nation actually do account? Why are you always finding out after everybody else?
The reality of fact is that we are coming from a background where the state-owned enterprises have been used by individuals within the system. But we must also appreciate the fact that since the introduction of the New Dawn by President Ramaphosa's administration, that seeks to ensure that we provide, as government, credible officials, credible governors, and also operations that are efficient and effective in order to render quality services to our people. Issues around corruption that has been there. Yes, I can agree that we might be seen as if we are reactive as Parliament. And also it must be remembered by the communities that Parliament has a responsibility to conduct oversight over government departments.
Right.
All what has happened, all what has been identified by the intellectual fraternity, including the Chapter 9 institutions, to find out that and declare that these entities are not run properly. In agreement with that, the introduction of the new dawn by the President Ramaphosa's administration that says, let's make sure that we have credible ministers, we have officials that are there with the necessary knowledge and expertise and experience, as well as credible boards, because out of the plus minus 700 state entities in the country, the only 6 that is under the banner of Minister Pravin Gordhan at Public Enterprise, your ESCOM, Transnet, Safcol, Denel, that's where ESCOM, we actually, as a portfolio committee, took a sound resolution. That's a resolution that says, let's call upon the Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, to allow us, give us an opportunity to dig deeper.
But hold on, Dr. Zille, that confirms my point. That confirms my point that this is after the fact. And I hear you talking about a new dawn, and it's like that feel-good South African moment. But the fact of the matter is, we're not going to solve the problem unless we understand how it happened. The new dawn is great, but if you don't know how we got there, then we're going to have the old situation again. So are you cognizant of how we got there and how Parliament has allowed that to happen?
Definitely, we are quite clear as a portfolio committee, out of the reports and also our outreach programs to these entities, we found out that there is a lot of corruption, and that corruption is not something that was agreed upon by a particular political party.
You knew about it, but you looked the other way.
African National Congress as the ruling party.
You knew about it, but you looked the other way.
Yes, ma'am, we went there. Yes, we got that information out of our execution of duty. We investigated people, we identified people, we put facts that are coming from the Chapter 9 institutions and individuals amongst the communities who are in the sector.
That's not true.
And then we took a sound resolution that says these people.
But hold on, we have to go in there. Zoli,
these people must make sure that they take responsibility of their activities.
It was investigative journalism, actually, that was revealing all of that. Okay, let's just listen to all. We've lost your microphone for just a moment. We're going to fix that in a second. I'll give you a chance to finish that point, Dr. Zgule, but I must challenge you, because we don't know that the investigations were happening. Instead, we know that it was the media and civil society that was putting the spotlight on that, and the ruling party was absent. And even for a time, it looked like the government was absent. And I would like you to speak to that when we come back from the ad break, because it's historically significant that we talk about, the ability of the oversight committees to do the work, or inability in this case. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But share your views on the SABC News online Twitter account, Facebook pages, using the hashtag SABC News Unfiltered. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
If you ask this Irish master whiskey distiller why sometimes whiskey is spelled with an E and sometimes without, he'd say,
You fair so good look. It's the whole thing. They're a back and get off in the whiskey without the E.
Yeah, didn't catch that. But if you asked us the difference, we'd tell you that every whiskey from around the world is spelled without the E, except for Irish and American whiskies.
Get a bottle of Chivas Regal 12-year-old blended Scotch whiskey plus 2 glasses for only $2.89.99 from Tops at Spar.
Last week, residents from these areas embarked on a shutdown which turned into violent clashes with police in some areas. Protests were expected to resume today, but the Gauteng shutdown coordinating committee says there's been a change of plans. What are those changes?
So what has been going wrong is we've had all of these shutdowns in our communities. So that means that these communities are disabled, there's no activity happening there, and then we are breaking down our own communities. What we must do is we must take the fight to the powers that be.
We're coming to the powerhouses, and the JSE is the platform of all the powerhouses. We are coming here. This is notice today.
We will consider this and then we will be in touch with you.
If they don't respond to us within 7 days, we will begin to cut what we call the economic blood flow of these organizations.
We pride ourselves on being impartial as well as independent. On the agenda, we basically break down the stories of the day.
Give the viewer the assurance that we will cover every side of the story.
Tear gas has now been also thrown at the protesters.
We are peacefully marching and the police is stopping the people. They're hitting the people. We are spraying the people with pepper spray. These people are supposed to protect us, but they are against us.
We are pushing them back by using the rubber bullets because we cannot allow them to block the roads and damage other people's property.
Quite important to bring on board all sides and hear what everybody has to say about the story, especially being the public broadcaster.
All in all, we basically take the news agenda of the day forward.
Welcome back to Unfiltered with me, Ridi Tlhabi. If you've just joined us, know that we're coming to you live from SABC in Auckland Park. Tonight on Unfiltered, we ask what is to be done with our failing SOEs. Our guest tonight is Zwelinzi Mavavi, who's General Secretary of SAFTU, the F before the T. And of course, we have Dr. Zugile, who's joining us from our PE studios. We've been talking about SOEs and the question, what's to be done? And I'm sorry that I'm being so hard on Dr. Zugile, but I think it's important that we acknowledge the problems, because if he says that we investigated, we did this, none of that happened. None of that happened. And as we start a new phase, we need to capacitate Parliament and other institutions to be able to investigate. What are your thoughts?
When you listen to some of our leaders who speak now in the era of the so-called New Dawn, you can bet that they're speaking as if there is a new government that have just been elected 5 months ago. Our reality in South Africa is that the governing party has been in power since 1994. They saw through all of the good and the bad that have happened. And they must learn to take responsibility of both, good or bad. And unfortunately, over the past 10 years, there was loads and loads of bad things that happened in their name, not by individuals, by leaders who were elected not once, but twice and more by the party to lead a transformation project, despite the outcries from everybody, despite our people occupying the streets, for example, to demand the resignation of the former president, Jacob Zuma. They were calling him the best thing that have ever happened to South Africa. They were the praise singers. They protected him 7-8 times in Parliament against a vote of no confidence. They called everybody who said, this is not what we know of the ANC names. And they threw some of us out into the wilderness with the slogan that said it was very, very cold outside, be careful about what you say. And now, post the damage, and the damage is there. Look at the economy. We're not saying that the economy was performing well before 2008. We all know that this economy took 2 blows.
Right.
The first blow was the collapse of the economy across the world, and the second blow in South Africa, unfortunately, was the project that went wrong.
Bad governance and inefficiency.
Absolutely.
So let me go back to our PE studios here, and this is a question that I'm asking on behalf of the men and women who heard a couple of days ago that they're losing their jobs right here at the SABC, of the men and women who work at Eskom, the men and women who are at PRASA, who are at all these state entities where the cleanup involves retrenchments. What do you, as the ANC, the ruling party, as MPs, what do you say to those people this evening?
The true and the real fact is that the ANC is taking responsibility for the bad and good. But we also appreciate the fact that all what the ANC government has done now is not something that we can say it has never happened in any of the countries in Africa after 20 years of democracy. But the case that it may be, I want to put it categorically clear that what has happened in the economy that has been affected by the misappropriation of funds, corruption in general in the country. We have done, as members of parliament, our work by identifying, investigating, and taking those people who were perpetrating corruption into task. Some of them have lost their positions already.
Some of them are still in cabinet. Some of them who presided over those decisions are in cabinet. So you have not done what you claim you've done.
No, this exactly. You know, this wheel is moving, and it is moving slowly, appropriately, and it is going to reach everywhere where it is needed. It is still unfolding that the identification of those is not only a responsibility of Parliament alone. It is not a responsibility of the Department of Public Enterprise alone. It is also a responsibility of all of us, including the law enforcement agents.
Are you pushing for that to happen? Because their names are known. The money has gone missing. People are losing money. The evidence, what I'm saying is the evidence is already there. So what are you waiting for? The ministers who presided over the appointment of the board members who stole people's money, the institutions that have needed bailout after bailout, the evidence is there. So how hard are you pushing to get your party members, your cabinet members, to account for what has happened?
Already by now, a decision was taken by the last national conference of the ANC that all those who are or who happened to be involved in corruption must take responsibility. That is happening. It is continuous.
Why are you throwing
already
your hands
by
in the
now.
air, Mr.
Boards of Eskom, boards of Transnet, they have fallen off.
Why are you throwing your hands in the air?
I'm throwing my hands off.
Let's give Mr. Zwelinzi my chance to speak here.
Right where we are, 2,000 workers are going to be thrown to join the other 9.8 million South Africans who are unemployed. I'm throwing my hands in the air because I know that PRASA is looking at every possible way to throw more workers into the streets. We are being told that 30,000 workers must be thrown in the streets at Eskom, and the minister says we must close down SAA, and so that we can throw another 10,000 workers into the streets. The gentleman, my comrade leader, is not telling us which minister that presided over this mess or president is on trial as we speak as a result of their action. All we know is that, for example, Minister Malusi Gigaba started the ball running in terms of replacing skilled and experienced board members with the Gupta-associated individuals. Where is he now? He's still earning his fat check in government. He's not even threatened by any kind of dismissal, despite the fact that the court have found him to be lying.
Well, he's just said there are false processes. Are you not being hard on them? They need to be working together with everybody. Well, be patient, Mr.
I hope that you could be at tonight in the supper tables of the SABC employees who don't know whether they will be able to put food on the table tomorrow, to listen to him saying that there's a process, a slow process that is eventually going to get hold of the people that we all know who they are. Tina Jumant emptied
Oil reserves.
The oil reserves. He's not on trial. He's not in jail. She is here in the country. Here is somebody who should have done something about it, saying that
differently?
The wheels are rolling slowly.
Shouldn't you do things differently? Isn't it time that the ruling party and anybody else from any party who presided over this, and I think we can agree that it is the ruling party, you are members of parliament, shouldn't you stand up and just say sorry to South Africans?
Once. For 10 years of silence.
Shouldn't you say sorry? Dr. Zugile? Are you still with us, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Shouldn't you say sorry?
You are breaking.
Okay, let me try
Yes.
again, because I do want an answer to this question. Shouldn't you just stop the politicking, the spin doctoring, and just face South Africans and say sorry?
I must put it also categorically clear. The fact that as ANC leading in South Africa, as Parliament, it is not correct that we did not do anything about these atrocities. These atrocities of corruption by individuals. We have taken decisions already as Parliament. Parliament that is there is an activist parliament that seeks to ensure that all those who have been identified and exposed by the facts.
I simply disagree that this was a work of individuals. When you appoint senior officials in the state-owned enterprises, it is the cabinet that okays those appointments. The cabinet okayed the appointment of Hlaudi Motsoeneng as the CEO of this institution, a guy that the public protector report says he can't, or the public protector couldn't find an evidence that he has a standard 7 or anything above that. Now they're saying individuals. When senior people were being kicked out left, right, and center, it was cabinet that was okaying, approving those new appointments.
We're going to have to leave it there, Mr. Vavi. I can hear and see the anger. And Dr. Zugile, we thank you also for joining us. This will be an ongoing conversation. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, and we regret the potential that those SOEs could have achieved. Right now, we just take a break on Unfiltered and cross to Studio 9, where Mahindra will give us the latest news.